What is Learn Outside? Learn Outside is a fascinating approach in the education field that allows students to expand their knowledge beyond the walls of the classroom. It is a metaphor for the idea that learning should be done not just within the walls of the classroom, but also outside of it. It encourages both literal and metaphorical educational attributes, such as outdoor activities, field trips, and hands-on experiences and project-based learning. This experiential approach encourages students to explore their environment and to use it to help them understand their world better. This approach helps student agency and the gaining of a deeper understanding that they can apply in a relevant real-world situation.
Description of today's episode for Learn Outside. We will be exploring experiential education and its role in student agency, career exploration, and project-based learning. We will see how activating superpowers in our educators and students increases agency. At the end of the segment, we will hear from our robotics team and superhero robot that they designed and built. Learn Outside takes place daily at Career Academy Network of Schools. Thank you for joining us for Learn Outside, an informal discussion about innovative and effective teaching practices that disrupts the status quo in education. Practices that activate the superhero powers in educators and students. This podcast series is hosted by myself, Dr. Candy Van Buskirk, Assistant Superintendent of the Career Academy Network of Schools in South Bend, Indiana, and...
Hello, I'm Dr. Nash. I'm the Maker Manager at the Makerspace in Six Flags Academy at the K-5 Elementary School in our Career Academy Network of Schools.
This podcast will feature superhero guests that are currently disrupting the status quo in education through innovative and research-based practices who are inclusive and supportive of all learners. Today's superhero guest will be Mr. Dave Ebersole, Future Lab Director and Robotics Coach. Our robotics superhero students, Kyra Lula, she'll be one of our spokespeople. And then we have Rachel Stout, she's going to be a driver of the robot, and Andon Lane will also be a driver of the robot. Let's first get started with our Learn Outside moment of the week. Dr.
All right.
Nash?
Thank you. I'm very excited right now. Our 4th and 5th grade students are researching, designing, and building the best or equitable habitat space for animals in a zoo. What they're doing is they're designing, engineering, and building these habitat places. And when they're finished, they'll actually go to several different zoos to see the animals in those in their current habitats. When they return from the zoo, then they're going to be able to reflect on and revise and replan, if necessary, the previous work. So it's really hands-on and relevant.
Oh, very good. I look forward to going to the 4th and 5th grade classrooms to see the designs of these zoos. Sounds exciting. Mm-hmm. Well, before I share about my Learn Outside piece of the week, our moment of the week, we talk about activating superpowers. And I really think that it's important that our audience understands what we're meaning by when we're talking about superpowers. Yes. Mm-hmm. We really believe that inside each human, everybody has something that they're unique, that there's something that they have in them that if it is activated, it is going to inspire them to learn and to do whatever that might be. So when we talk about activating superpowers, it's recognizing and it's encouraging those powers within inside us. So that leads me into the Learn Outside moment that I want to share. I had the opportunity to go to Bostonia Global out in San Diego, California, and I was in a kindergarten classroom. And in the kindergarten classroom, the classroom was made up of different pods, and they were learning about baking in this classroom. And the classroom teacher, and once again, these are 5-year-olds, so to think about what they're doing at 5 years of age. And the pods were different. You had the teacher at the kidney table that was working with 4 or 5 students, and they were putting the ingredients in to make the cupcakes. They were measuring the flour and the eggs and the vanilla to go in. Then you had a pod of 4 or 5 students that they were architects, and they were designing what their cupcake was going to look like. Then you had a group that was, doing a math lesson with manipulatives based on the math that was going to be needed for, making the cupcake.
Wow.
You had a group that was dressing up like bakers. So we had all these different pieces, right? So what that brought me to, and the realization is that that teacher was activating superpowers within those students. She was allowing every student to look at the baking of that career exploration that's embedded within the daily lesson.
That's right.
And to what piece might they identify with, right? And what
Yes.
might they be interested in? And so our theme today is we're talking about student agency and ownership. And these students had ownership of their learning when they were in the pods.
Absolutely.
These students were diving into career exploration, and it was project-based learning. So that's, those were my pieces of what was exciting. But when I look at our stories that we share of our Learn Outside moments, they really shine a light on the theme.
They do.
Yeah. We were able to see at Bostonia Global experiential learning opportunities, students' curiosity was elevated,
Yes.
and they took ownership of their learning, even kindergarten students. This example also shows how you can incorporate career exploration in daily lessons and projects. Now, let's hear a word from one of our superhero sponsors. When we return, we will meet with our superhero guest, Mr. Dave Ebersole.
Career Academy Robotics.
Join Career Academy Robotics to become your own superhero.
Career Academy Robotics. Yeah.
Welcome back to Learn Outside. We have Mr. Dave Ebersole joining us. He is the Future Lab Director and Robotics Coach for the Career Academy High School. Dave, can you share with us what the Future Lab is and share with us how we are seeing students' superpowers being activated, and how are your superpowers being activated as the teacher and leader in the Future Lab and robotics?
Absolutely. So the Future Lab, the core concept is that we're going to have the newest, greatest, and latest technology within the Future Lab. So we're going to have 150 watt CO2 lasers. We're going to have a 5x10 water jet. We're going to have epilogue lasers, OhmTech lasers, 3D printers that can do metal, carbon fiber, and the whole reason is to tear down the silos between industry and our students. So right now, a really good example of this is we currently have a metal 3D printer that Mark Forge makes.
Yeah.
It's one of the safest ones that you could possibly have in a high school. And a lot of places are trying to figure out how to get that into their industry, to incorporate in their workflow. So what Mark Forge is doing is they're bringing those companies here so that our students can demo it for them, so they can show that the high school students know how to run it, can work with the industry, and then it becomes a kind of a two-way street that they figure out, hey, I do like this product. They get to work with our students to figure out hands-on, and then our students get that workplace development, plus they get that pipeline towards that industry. So it's just kind of win-win for everybody.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing. From what you're saying, it sounds like the goal is that all students have an opportunity to look at different career pathways. And what does that look like with our students having a voice in the pathways that they're choosing to kind of help activate those superpowers?
Yeah, absolutely. So the students get to choose between a couple of different pathways. We offer 7 in the K through 12 building, a network that we have, and then they get to pick a couple of those and figure out what they like, what they don't like, what works for them, and then what they're really passionate about. And then our goal is to break down not just the normal PBL model, but also the authentic audience. That right now the authentic audience is always industry, the experts in their field, but we're really trying to make this just more of a social media movement so that the authentic audience becomes everybody. So we're going to have a lot of online marketplaces for the students to sell their new adventures, and then we're also going to have a brick and mortar shop called the Makers Market on site at the Future Lab.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So I hear a lot of activation of the superpowers of our students. And just listening to you, I can hear the passion in your voice about what it is that you get to do. So it only lends me that your superpowers are being activated as well, because that is something that really is inside you and comes out. Kind of share a little bit about that with me. Working here at the Career Academy Network of Schools, are you encouraged? Are staff recognizing what your superpowers are? Talk a little bit about how staff's superpowers are activated.
So I've been here for 9 years, and I've been coaching the robotics team for 9 years. In fact, in my interview, I walked in and I did my interview, and as I was walking out, I turned around and pitched the robotics program to the superintendent at the time. And he goes, I have no idea what you're talking about, but you seem to, so go for it. And that's really been kind of the culture of the school and the network for the whole time that I've been here, that if you have an idea and you have the passion, you can run with it. And it's my job to figure out how to make your passion a reality.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And now that leads us, we are headed to another commercial. We will be back, and when we come back, we are going to hear from some of our superhero students on the robotics team.
Career Academy Music, where we are better than the best.
Join Career Academy Band because that's where music rocks.
Welcome back to Learn Outside. Joining us now, we have student Andon Lane as a driver. We have Rachel Stout as a driver. We have Mr. Dave Ebersole in the background. And joining me is Kyra Lula. These are our robotics students. And I'm going to ask Kyra. Kyra, if you can share with me, working with the robotics team and figuring out career pathways, how has your opportunities developed your career exploration and your plans past high school?
So, like most high school students, you don't really know exactly what you want to do when you first start. I actually was going to go into forensic anthropology, which is completely different from how robotics has changed my career pathway now. I joined the team my sophomore year, and I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was still exploring and learning, where I fit on the team. So I got into marketing, and I got into social media, and I started managing our social media teams. I started working on our website. I started, working with sponsorships, working with other teams. And from there, it kind of developed even more. I started to, do more hands-on stuff with the robot, and I realized that I really like it a lot. So I went from forensic anthropology to wanting a degree in marketing to now going to Purdue College of Engineering for a degree in mechanical engineering. So this team overall not only shaped like my career pathway, but also just, the things that I like in general. Going from forensics to engineering is like a huge leap, and it's different from what I wanted to go into originally, but I'm really excited to see, what this team brought me.
Thank you for sharing, and we can see your excitement, so I appreciate you sharing that. Now we have this really incredible robot behind us that you guys have spent a lot of time working on, and you've had a wonderful, successful season. Can you talk to our audience a little bit about how this works? I'm always just so fascinated. I know you guys were at the board meeting last week, and how you have different teams because you're activating superpowers based on what people's strengths are. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So most high schools have a robotics team, and so when you go to a competition, you will see all these robots on the field, and each robot is from a different high school, which is really cool to see because not only are we exploring our superpowers, but all of these other kids are too, and it's just really amazing to see. So every year there's a new game and there's a new challenge. So we have to kind of adapt to that every single year. This year's game, we have cones and cubes, and we have to place them on these things called nodes.
I hate to interrupt, but can we see some of this in
Yeah.
action? Thank you, drivers.
So we have to place these game pieces on nodes, and we get points for that. And then these points, they can get us ranked up, and then we pick our own alliances. So we work with these other teams to move to finals. So, it's not just like a one-on-one competition. It's not one team versus another. You have to be able to work with people to be able to be successful in this game, which is great.
So I see this telescoping arm. So I know that when you guys were planning, you had groups that some wanted to do the telescope arms. I think you said Mr. Ebersole did not want to do it.
No, he did not.
So talk to us about that. How did you decide what the unique pieces are that you designed for the robot?
So the great thing about this team is that it is nearly 100% student run. So this robot was entirely designed by our students. We have wonderful, amazing mentors who are there to help us and guide us with, whatever decisions we decide to put on our robot. Like this year we have a grabber to grab the game pieces, and then we have a telescoping arm. Our mentors actually didn't want any of that, but we wanted it, and we told them no. And so then they kind of have to be like, okay, this isn't what we want, but we want you guys to build a robot that you are proud of and that you worked on. So we kind of design these in different groups. We design these different pieces on the robot with the help of our mentors, and we put it all together and make an amazing robot.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Now I'm going to bring Mr. Ebersole back up here. Mr. Ebersole, is there anything else that you would like to add that we haven't hit on based on the robotics team or Career Pathways Future Lab?
Absolutely. So, especially with the robotics team, I was a student on a team back in 2006, and the one thing that I love about the team is the bar is so unwavering. You either hit it or you don't. There is no middle ground. There's no late assignments here. The deadline is the deadline, and the students always have 6 weeks to build their robot, and then we go to comp. And in the 6 weeks, I'm always so focused on making sure the kids get the skills, the robot gets built, it's ready for comp, and then at comp, I'm head coach. I'm trying to make sure that we win. I'm trying to make sure that the students are having a positive experience. And then there's always a point in the competition season where I have to take a step back, literally usually, and I admire that there are robots on the field that are actively playing a game that was designed 6 weeks ago by high school kids. It's insane to me, and I think the word awesome just really represents what this program is and what it brings to my students, because 100% of my students can go pro, and there's no other program that exists like that.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you to our students. It's incredible the work that you're doing, and it's Learn Outside, experiential learning at its finest, student agency. You guys are taking ownership of your learning. You're finding your career pathways through this, and it's all through a project-based learning environment. So appreciate your time today. And Mr. Ebersole, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Dave and the robotics team. We enjoyed learning about the agency taking place in robotics and the career exploration opportunities. Wishing you all well as the school year is wrapping up.
Yes, I really appreciate Mr. Ebersole's passion and his commitment to making sure the students all have voice and agency and ownership in that process. That was definitely obvious and welcomed.
Yes, absolutely. And please join us next week with our guest superhero, Bree Childs, the principal of Success Academy at Boys and Girls Club, where we will learn about the unique Learn Outside opportunities at SABGC that's opening the fall of 2023. Hope you all have a joyous Learn Outside week. Thank you.